Well, winter has finally arrived in central Iowa. What are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to talk about the Arab Spring and also about the escalating crisis in Syria. We're going to talk with Jeffrey Weiss, and later in the program, State Representative-elect Marty Anderson is going to be our guest.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
Hello, Mid-American Energy.
I'm very concerned that you want to bill me an extra $5,000 to build a nuclear reactor. Do you know we're in the middle of a recession?
Oh, we were hoping you wouldn't hear about that until after the legislature had taken action.
Why not let your shareholders pick up the tab?
Oh, way too risky for our shareholders. We need you, our loyal customers, to pay for it.
Wait, let me see if I understand this. Mid-American wants to build a nuclear power plant in 10 or 20 years, and they want me to pay for it now?
That's right.
Well, I'll just take my business elsewhere.
Sorry, we're a monopoly. What we say goes.
I've heard nuclear power is more expensive than other sources.
Yes it is.
And I've heard there's no plan for how to dispose of nuclear waste.
We're looking at shooting it into the sun.
Well, I'm not going to sit back and let you make bad decisions with my money.
We're betting you will.
Stop Mid-American's power grab. Call your legislators today. 281-3371. 281-3371.
Paid for by Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to Des Moines, Iowa, the cultural and culinary crossroads of the country. That is Brother Trucker kicking us off. Jeffrey Weiss is my guest on the first part of the show. But before you meet Jeffrey, you got to see his new gloves, man. They're really awesome.
Yeah, my hands just
hold them in front of the mic so people can see them.
This is just amazing. I mean, you know, am I an NFL receiver or am I here to talk about Syria? I'm not really sure.
I don't know. You could be an NFL receiver
who
cares about foreign policy.
If I played for the Bears, maybe I could actually catch a pass and not drop it.
Zing! How do you feel about the Packers winning?
I'm not liking that.
You should like the Packers. The Packers are basically a socialist team.
Yes, I know,
right?
but I'm a Chicago Bear fan and always have been. So there's nothing I can do about it.
Okay, so basically you're saying that if somebody has a problem or a misconception or a bad habit, they should just keep that and not even try to change.
In my case, there's no changing, even though we're really bad. So.
Well, big game tonight, of course. Patriots and the Houston, whatever they called,
Texans,
Oilers?
right?
Texans.
Oh,
Oilers.
okay, yeah,
Houston, yeah, that's going to be an awesome game.
Yeah, sometime I'll come on here to talk about the NFL.
Okay, I'll make sure that I'm not here when you do that. Something I'd love to talk about, and we're just gabbing here for a bit, folks, before we get serious on Syria. But you saw this full page ad on these so-called heating miracles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at these Amish farmers. Look at this, slaving away, making these heaters for us.
Mm-hmm.
Consumers bury Amish with orders for new heating miracle. I might just, Maddie, we might just have to call this number during the second segment of the program and see what the shtick is here. I mean, this is like one of those too good to be true full page ads.
Yes.
Anyway, Jeffrey, you're not worried about the cold because you have fancy gloves. You don't need to worry about the cold.
I'm not worried about it.
No, you're just too cool.
Got them on clearance last year, so hey.
Yeah. Now, and if you were in Syria, you would not even need those gloves. The place is hot, and not just climatically, but it's just it's a hotbed. It's it's a mess.
Yeah. Well,
and what is going on in Syria? I mean, you're the Catholic Peace Ministry. You live, breathe, eat, sleep foreign policy. So you know more than
Yeah.
Susan or Condoleezza Rice.
Huh. I don't know about that, but well, last week I had the good fortune of giving a talk at the Central Library on the topic of Syria, and I think one of the things that I've tried to express to many people about the changes taking place in Tunisia and Egypt, Libya, Syria, is that the people in that region are challenging the post-colonial governments that were largely imposed by France and Britain after World War I. And, you know, Thomas Friedman in a recent New York Times article said that the lines that the British and the French drew after World War I, listen to me, are being redrawn. I think that's a little bit strong. But the changes taking place in that region are going to take decades to play out. And even if Assad, which is a family that has ruled Syria since 1970, is tossed aside, what will come after that will also take decades to sort out.
Now, has Syria ever known a free and open election?
No. Ever since the Assad family and the Ba'ath Party has come into power in that country, which Assad and the Ba'ath represent probably 10% of the population. They are Alawite, which is a Shiite sect of Islam, and 74% of Syria's population are Sunni Arabs.
So how does 10% of the population control the other 90%?
Well, you can blame the French because it was.
But I like the French. Can I blame the English instead?
In this case, you could blame the French.
Right.
Between 1920 and 1946, when Syria was a French mandate state, typical during colonialism, the colonial powers would set up a minority in power to create a buffer between them and the majority population. And the Alawites, the Druze, who are a small Shia sect in Syria, they're only 4% of the population, and the 10% of the Christians, and also the 2 million in a country of 23 million, who are Kurds, were given a political and economic status higher than the 75% of population.
So that's a coalition representing 25% of the population.
Precisely.
Still, you've got the other 3/4 of the population
have really had little or no representation.
How do they get away with that?
Well, Assad.
I mean, here it's 1%,
yeah,
but still.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that the Ba'ath Party came into power in the 1960s, slowly but surely in Syria. A different Ba'ath Party came into power in Iraq during the same time. And you can really look at parallels between Syria and Iraq. The British, in fact, empowered the 20% of the population in Iraq who were Sunni Arab, gave them the best political and economic benefits. The other thing, and then Syria did the same thing for the Alawites, who, like I said, are 11% of the population. But what's also interesting is the business class and the landowning class of Sunni Arabs in Syria, they didn't want to join the military. So the Alawites and a lot of the minorities filled the military during the French Mandate state in the 1920s and the 30s. And then when Syria got its independence, the officer class and the military that came to power were the Alawites and these particular minorities. And so it does appear inevitable that the majority is going to rule Syria. We don't know how long this is going to play out.
But we're in the middle of a civil war leading up to that inevitability.
Well, that's an important point because the International Committee of the Red Cross months ago established that this is officially in international law a civil war. That is important because that means that all the parties involved in the political violence is killing close to 100 people every day, perhaps 30 to 40,000 in the last 2 years. Every party in this conflict has to abide by the Geneva and the Hague Conventions. There are no exceptions to that. The rebels have to abide by international humanitarian law, and so does the military and security forces.
And if they don't?
Well, right now, Assad, his brother, and a lot of, interestingly enough, some of his family that is running a lot of the most lethal military forces, especially the bombing of leveling of villages by tanks. There has been some noise from members of the UN Security Council that his case the case of Assad and others around him could be referred to the International Criminal Court, for the actions that they are currently engaged in.
Okay. All right. So again, the you think the outcome is inevitable, but we still have key geopolitical players across the globe lining up on either side, and the U.S. really has been kind of hands off on this one.
Yes,
I mean that's unusual for the U.S.
Well,
I mean, we tend to want to get our hands involved in many. I shouldn't say any conflict, because certainly you can look at Africa, where there are no oil interests and no major geopolitical issues. We tend to look the other way at genocide.
Yeah.
But Syria, Mideast, we tend to get involved in Mideast conflicts.
Yeah, well,
oil.
the United States has had a different foreign policy to all of the countries in the world. In Bahrain, where the Fifth Fleet is, the big U.S. naval base, the United States has tacitly supported the monarchy there.
In Bahrain.
Yeah, in Bahrain, exactly. And that has been controversial, because many Arabs have said that is because of the Fifth Fleet there. You don't have those same considerations as much with Syria. The Russian Federation and Iran have a military presence, a navy presence on Syria's port that the United States does not have. But I think your general point is correct, that a lot of people in the United States have the assumption that the U.S. has the power to influence what is taking place on the ground in Southwest Asia. And I think that's probably misguided. Because
Southwest Asia, you mean the Mideast?
Yeah, I mean the Mideast, but I say Southwest Asia because Iran is not an Arab country; they're a Persian country. And during the presidential campaign, Romney criticized Obama, for example, by saying that he should have come out for the Iranian opposition. Well, I think Obama knew that if he came out for the Iranian opposition, that would be what the government in Iran would have wanted, because they were calling the opposition Westerners, foreigners. And so, to do so like that would have been, the best support that you could ever give to the government of Iran. I mean, that point was somehow lost on Mr. Romney, which is really confounding when you think about it.
Looking more broadly to the whole conversation about the Arab Spring, in Egypt right now, we see a new element of the engagement there that has the population pretty much divided 50-50. We've got a new government. Interestingly, Mubarak was installed literally a month before I visited Egypt back in 1979. I arrived there a month after Anwar Sadat was assassinated. Wow. And it was a fascinating time to be there. A bit scary, too. Guns everywhere, soldiers everywhere. But Mubarak in power since then. And now we have new leadership that is Islamic.
Sure.
That has at times tipped its hand to indicate a more strident, hardcore, Islamic government, but at other times seeming more moderate.
Right.
And you have the population of Egypt pretty evenly divided, with pretty vociferous protests on either side of the debate. Is the Arab Spring? I mean, is the initial kind of unified presence that seemed to be an overwhelming display of democracy behind the Arab Spring, is that kind of faded?
No, it hasn't. The Egyptian population under Mubarak, Iraq under Saddam Hussein, and the Syrians under Assad, one of the reasons that religion has become so powerful is that the mosque was the only place you could go to collectively gather. In some ways, it's similar to how the African American church became so powerful in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement.
Or the Irish Catholic Church for centuries, and even still.
Exactly. And I think that point is often lost on the Western audience, who just assume that just because these people are a lot of these people are Muslims, that they're naturally going to want to combine church and state. But your point is well taken. The Syrian Muslim Brotherhood is probably 50% of the Sunni Arab population. They are not as strong right now as the Syrian the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood. However, the jury's still out in terms of how how religious that those governments are going to be. My own personal feeling is that over time they're not going to be able to stay in power unless they're more secular, unless they give rights to women, unless they give people access to the internet, access to watching Arab satellite TV, Al Jazeera. I can't imagine you could be in power anywhere in that part of the world and try to keep Al Jazeera, for example, away from people.
So logically, our country should be all sorts of behind the Arab Spring movement because it is really a grassroots, democratic, more freedom-loving approach to governance than is presented by some of the more strident sects in Islam.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would really, personally, I would prefer that the United States stay out of the internal politics.
Oh, you and Ron Paul.
Yeah, of the countries of the region, and you know, and in particular in this case, where the reputation of the United States is so low. I mean, there are some polls to suggest that you know, Obama's favorability in the region is perhaps even less than the former president of the United States, Bush Jr. And that also might be because there were some expectations, probably misguided expectations that United States foreign policy would change. However, I think in some key respects, it has changed in the sense that you can at least give the Obama administration credit for not getting more involved in Egypt. I think when they knew the handwriting was on the wall and Mubarak was going to go, the United States stepped aside.
Or Libya, for that matter.
Yeah,
but would you say the same thing about Syria? Should the U.S. or should the U.S. either be more directly involved in the Syrian conflict, or should it exercise more clout through the UN?
I think that the United States should not engage, you know, what would you say, unilaterally in any respect in the internal affairs of what's taking place in Syria.
So what if the Assad regime starts to use chemical weapons?
If in fact, that's an excellent question. If the conflict is escalated to that high a level, there are things that the United States can do in the UN Security Council, and the U.S. is already doing things in terms of talking with the Russian Federation. There's been a lot of, I think I'm often critical of U.S. media, but pretty accurate U.S. media accounts, I'll give them credit, that in fact Turkey's relationship with Russia is important, and the Russian Federation might be moving right now. And if the Russian Federation moves against the Assad family, then the government in Syria is going to be in a real predicament, and that could be very soon. And then they'll have to decide if they're going to want to go to the western coast, where most of their Alawite and Ba'ath brothers are, and fight some sort of a government. I don't want to call them government in exile because it'll take a while for a new government to form. Right. But you know, there could be a long guerrilla war after this, and a lot of good reports in the New York Times too accurate about how the Kurds are picking up weapons right now because they're very nervous about the future.
The Kurds in Syria,
the Kurds
or in Turkey
Syria
as well.
The Kurds in Syria and always in Turkey, it seems like, and also the Christian population in Syria, roughly maybe I'm thinking 8% of the population, they are divided. Many of them support Assad, and many of them support the opposition. Because they've done pretty well under Assad, despite the fact that it's been an authoritarian.
So you're the summary of your take on Syria right now, and again, its version of Arab Spring is that the U.S. policy towards Syria is correct right now. It's the right policy in a somewhat intractable situation.
Yeah, I don't think it's too far off, and I would just really, I would really like to hear other arguments about how it could be improved or what the United States should be doing, because I think this is a civil war, and it's for the Syrians to determine their future.
Hey, on the local level relevant to foreign policy, you were recently involved with an effort to get the Des Moines City Council to back a resolution on military spending. Tell us about that.
Yeah, dozens of cities across the United States, including Philadelphia and Pittsburgh in particular, Cleveland, I believe was another one, have asked their city councils to tell the politicians in Washington, as they're negotiating all these budgets for the future of the country, that we should be spending more money building the United States. We need to be building our cities, our infrastructure, and meeting the human needs of the people here, rather than the war in Afghanistan, rather than our half of our discretionary federal budget goes to the Pentagon, or what Mayor County noted as we need to convert from a permanent military or a war economy to a civilian economy. And we were really pleased to see the Des Moines City Council vote 5-2 to pass that resolution.
Who were the two in opposition?
Well, it was Hensley and is it Haley
Grease?
Haley Grease, yeah. And to, they, to their credit, they, we didn't agree with them necessarily, but they stated that as city officials, they didn't feel they were in a position to tell the federal government officials what to do.
So Chris Hensley will, from henceforth, refrain from trips to Washington, D.C. to lobby on behalf of
you can take that up with
cities. Her. Well, I mean, the city of Des Moines is always getting involved with federal conversations. It wants money to come home. I mean, we pay more in taxes here than we receive from Washington. And so I understand why city officials go there to lobby the city's case. But to say that, that seems very disingenuous to me.
Christine and is it Mr. Grice were nice and cordial to us. So And I'm being
cordial back, but I'm making a pointed observation that this is not consistent with typical city council behavior.
Yeah. Well, I think our group was just so excited that 5-2 it was passed. We had 3 local bishops who were in favor of the resolution. We had labor unions, we had social groups, civic organizations. So we had a wide coalition of people that were behind the resolution. The majority of Republicans and Democrats in the United States are opposed to the war in Afghanistan right now. I think you can find polls that show that the majority of Republicans and Democrats are also interested in cutting the Pentagon budget.
Now, on that subject, the fiscal cliff approacheth.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And if we go off the cliff, the Pentagon would have to slash $500 billion.
Yeah, over 10 years.
Over 10 years. Still, that's a bunch of money. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
They've never been asked to make that kind of sacrifice. And if anything, their budget continues to grow and grow and grow.
Right.
And when you hear President Obama and the GOP Congress, the GOP House talking about averting the fiscal cliff, there's no conversation from either side about military cuts to military spending.
No. Once again, other than Ron Paul, Dennis Kucinich, and a handful of other people, the United States does not appear right now, its leadership, ready to talk about moving from a permanent war to a civilian economy. The United States has a permanent war economy. Half the budget goes to the Pentagon.
I know. If any serious discussion of debts and deficits has to include cuts to military spending.
There's absolutely no doubt, because it's 50 cents of every dollar that Congress spends in the discretionary budget. And, right now you have a situation where the president wanted to spend, $60 billion to build infrastructure. And right now the Republicans are opposed to building bridges, and so it's
so in your opinion,
it's just an interesting time. I never thought I'd see the day where political parties were just sort of willingly saying, let's try to turn this country and make it look like Brazil or Bolivia. But I guess that's our trajectory. I mean, if you're not willing to build roads, bridges, transportation, and we do have a pretty close to second or third world transportation system. The United States is 40th in the world in life expectancy, tied with Cuba.
It was 37th a couple of years ago. We know which direction we're heading.
Yeah, and you actually look at the CIA fact book, and they put us like at 52nd. They throw in some small islands ahead of us too. But yeah, I think we can do better, and I think this is, I think you point out, this is why we were there talking to the city officials. I think city officials across the country and mayors. The National Conference of Mayors supported a resolution similar to ours. Okay. People at the local level get it. They get it that we have to switch to a civilian economy, that we can't have a permanent war economy. It's not sustainable. But if we could just get Republicans and Democrats in Washington to get it.
All right. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
But basically, though, to conclude, you're saying, from your point of view as somebody concerned about foreign policy and about federal budget priorities, better to go off the fiscal cliff.
It won't happen anyway, because even if we so-called go off, there'll be a resolution that will be passed weeks later. And I think the corporate media has to keep people, in a constant state of fear so they can sell products, and they have to keep people interested. So
I scare people too, but I don't have too many products to sell. I think you can scare people by telling the truth.
All right.
Hey, Jeffrey, thanks so much for joining us. Jeffrey Weiss, folks, with the Catholic Peace Ministry. I want to thank Physicians for Social Responsibility and the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club for joining, for helping to support this program. I also want to thank Reynolds Energy Solutions. We've been talking about the Mideast. You always think about oil when you think about the Mideast, and you also think about the importance of energy conservation and efficiency. So, folks, do not hesitate to give Tim a shout at 802-2801, 802-2801. and ask him to come and do an audit. They don't cost you a penny. He will find ways you can save money and reduce your carbon footprint. That's Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions at 802-2801. We'll be back in a minute. Marty Anderson is going to join us. She is the state representative-elect from the Beaverdale and Merle Hay neighborhoods of Des Moines. Excited to have her joining the Iowa General Assembly and excited to have her conversing with us here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Rizo for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The fighting burrito is locally owned.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
I love driving to Newton to see the
Me
races.
too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
You recognize that tune, Marty?
Afraid I do.
Okay, it's a horrific movie, but it's a great scene and it's great music. And I'm feeling somewhat personally involved with it right now because of this picture that appeared in a publication promoting Des Moines' cultural and business climate. This is in you can't really tell just how bad it is there, but I really look like a dork. I look like a major dork. I think I look so deranged, and I look like the accordion-playing Midwestern cousin of the banjo player from Deliverance. That's me, folks, the accordion-playing cousin of the banjo player from Deliverance.
You look like a serious musician.
Yeah, well, if you look at the actual picture in the publication, I think, oh yeah, this guy's not entirely all there. Anyway, but you're all here.
I'm all here.
And you're 3 weeks away from being an actual representative.
Yes.
So if you can survive this program and a few other obstacles.
That's right. And this is my second time on your program.
Wonderful, yes. You have a ways to go to catch up to State Rep Dan Kelly or Rob Hogue or a few others. But
I have a lot to learn from a lot of people.
You do, yeah. Now, this is it took me 4 years to figure out the ropes at the State House. You're probably wow, exactly. Well, you saw the picture of me playing the accordion. I mean, how much can you expect from me, really? So maybe it'll take you 2 years, maybe a year. But there's a lot to learn. What are you looking forward to?
Oh gosh, I am so looking forward to just the opportunity to be involved in policymaking. I've worked with the legislature. I've helped pass laws in the past. Now I've met a lot of people in my district. I've listened to what they think is important. I've let them know how to continue contacting me, and I am just ready to be a representative. Yeah. I love that word. I get to represent the people of my district, and what a great district.
Yeah. You know, Beaverdale, Merle Hay, what else you got?
Beaverdale, Merle Hay, Meredith.
Meredith is kind of the very northwestern corner of Des Moines.
A little bit of Lower Beaver, a little bit of Drake, and some Walnut Woods, I think. Or Waveland Woods. I'm sorry, I always get that one wrong. But so there's 6 neighborhoods, and they each have their own feel to them. And, but it's a district that cares about other people. I learned that at the door. My district is a working district. There's a lot of professionals in the Beaverdale area. There are a lot of blue-collar workers in the district, and it's a working district. And it's a district full of people who have retired who have a ton of wisdom to offer me. So I feel like I've got the best of all worlds in that district. And I'm very proud that between the Republicans and the Democrats, we got out 83% of the vote in our district. No, 87. I'm sorry.
See, and that's remarkable. The highest county in the state was Fayette County up in northeast Iowa.
That's right.
83 point, I can't remember, maybe 7%. Over 83% of the eligible voters in Fayette County voted. So you actually beat that record in
That's
Beaverdale.
Right. We had
That's
87%.
impressive.
Only 13% of the eligible voters didn't vote in our district. And I won 68% of that vote.
68%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have I like your opponent, Jeff Ibbotson, a very nice man.
Me
a very
too.
nice man.
In fact, I'm having lunch with Jeff tomorrow.
Oh, you are?
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. Tell him I said hello.
I will.
Good. Yeah, and it's it was a civil campaign.
You bet.
There was no mudslinging. You guys didn't drag each other through the dirt.
We had differences in policies, but we're both basically good, caring, civic-minded people.
So why can't that happen in other elections? You know, I mean, maybe some are going to say to Jeff, well, you know, if you'd come out negative and nasty, you would have won. But he's not that kind of person. And
he's not that kind of person.
And I also think, I really believe deep down inside, most voters are so fed up with that negative stuff that they were probably delighted to see a civil campaign.
Well, I think both in my primary, where I had 2 fabulous opponents who have become good friends and supporters since then, and in my race with Jeff, we stuck to issues. We stuck to what we had to offer, what we thought about things. All of us spent a lot of time getting to know people, which is why I'm having lunch with Jeff, and will continue having relationships with the other people who ran against me. They met people in ways that I didn't and can offer me something.
Very good.
So for me, this is the only way to run. For me, this is the only way to do it now. I am very fortunate that I live in that I'm a Democrat in a very Democratic district who is working to follow a fabulous representative in Janet Peterson. And so in some ways, the work was easier for me.
But that's a Democratic district, but it's not as one-sided as some districts. I mean,
it's not.
A Republican could conceivably win. And I remember, again, with slightly different boundaries in the past, I remember one of your predecessors, Jack Holvek, having some fairly competitive elections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. About 47% of the people in the district are registered Democrats. And so should a fabulous Republican who can reach out to the independents and some of the Democrats run against me, I will have a challenge. Yeah. For me, the challenge isn't with my challenger. For me, the challenge is just getting to know the people. My husband and I knocked on 7,000 doors over the last year.
How are your knuckles?
My knuckles are fine. My feet kill me.
Your feet are killing me. Okay, well, good. You need to keep using whatever you're doing with your knuckles is working. You need new shoes.
I do need new shoes.
But let me ask you: you've worked on policy before as a citizen advocate.
I have.
And what are going to be your priority areas as a lawmaker?
Well, I have some great assignments from Leader McCarthy. I was assigned to the Public Safety Committee, which deals with criminal law, and of course, my concern for crime victims will be a major focus. I'll always want to know how any criminal law is going to affect crime victims. My concern for fairness is brought into the Justice Committee, which I got appointed to. Civil rights. Are you on the fairness?
There is no specific civil rights.
No, there is not. It would come into justice.
Yeah. Okay.
I was also appointed to the Human Resources Committee, which is kind of a funny name for Health and Human Services.
Yeah, and that's the standing committee, not the one that deals with the budget.
That's right.
What's your budget subcommittee?
My budget subcommittee is Justice.
Okay. Well,
Justice
you've got a lot of work in the criminal justice area.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm also a social worker, and so I'm very excited about the Human Resources appointment because I can work I can work for working people. I can work for poor people. People talk a lot about the middle class. Well, the middle class is made up of a lot of people, including the working poor, including people with mental health and disabilities. And I want to take my social work skills into that committee.
So, and you again, you'll be dealing with a lot of legislation that is relevant to prisons, to criminal justice generally, and my experience. I mean, you're in the same position I was. You're a minority member in a Republican House.
That's right.
And I think maybe the climate
and a
has
freshman
changed. And a freshman. I was there once, and hopefully you'll have more sense than I did and not introduce quite so many bills. I was just trying to take my constituents' ideas and give them a voice, but
that's right.
You can only do so much, and I think it's good that you're focusing. But the concern that more and more people have is that the criminal justice system has become so punitive. We're locking up way too many people who should be in community-based corrections, who should be using electronic monitoring bracelets, who should be in some kind of a restorative justice program instead of being thrown into prison. And it's hard to know what kind of debates will come up on those sort of issues, but have you thought at all about how you might respond to those kinds of
I think about that a lot. I have thought about it all through my career. You can't work with crime victims and not be concerned about what happens with offenders. I worked with primarily with victims of heinous crimes, very serious, violent crimes. But we've got a lot of people in prison for whom that was not their
more and
crime.
more all the time.
Yes.
I mean, the population of the prison population in Iowa grows faster than the population at large.
Yes, and I sat on the when I worked in the Attorney General's office. I sat on the Reentry Committee of the Department of Justice, and learned a lot about how we do and don't or didn't help prepare people to come back into society. One thing that victims know and that I know is that nearly everybody, unless they commit a Class 1 felony, is going to come out of prison. And they're going to come out with attitudes and thoughts, and while we've got them in prison, it's our responsibility to help them solve issues, find ways to be a better person, get ready for coming back into society, because if we have them just come back into society with no experiences about how to change, then we get what we get.
Yeah. Yeah, and some will be they're not able to be rehabilitated, but again, I think a lot are, and we don't give many a chance.
When I think we're learning more and more about who can be rehabilitated and who can't.
Right.
I think first of all, we have to start out with the idea that everybody can be rehabilitated. I mean, we have to think that way.
Yeah.
And then we have to assess as we go and keep working with people, especially, I think, when we have first-time offenders, juvenile offenders. Certainly, we have an opportunity at that point to help them turn it around.
Yeah. So, I mean, two other questions before we go to a break, and I want to talk about some other issues too, and I want to give folks a chance to dial in and share your comments or questions with State Representative-elect Marty Anderson. The number to call is 244-0077, 244-0077. It's 515 if you're in Central Iowa. If you'd like to make a toll-free call, 855-244-0077. And you can also email me your questions at fallonforum@gmail.com. Two quick questions I have for you. One, we haven't had a death penalty conversation in Iowa for a long, long time. It's very possible that that issue may come up in the House. I think Branstad is posturing on it, but he's fully aware that it's not going to go anywhere in the Democratic Senate. But it is a real possibility that the House may take it up. What will be your response and involvement in that debate?
Well, I think it'll come up because of these two young girls who have been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And, murder is such a huge loss to all of the survivors and to the community. And when it's a child, we feel we weren't able to protect them. We've got to think of what we can do to fix that. And oftentimes the death penalty is what comes up.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to the death penalty because it has not been shown to be a diversion. It doesn't stop people from committing capital crimes, because I've seen mistakes made in the criminal justice system.
Quite a few. Yeah.
I'm not interested in my tax dollars or the morality of my nation or my state to kill people. It doesn't work. We have life for life in Iowa. That's the best thing. People rarely, if ever, get out if they've gotten a life sentence.
Right.
And that's the way it ought to be.
Well, and I would argue too that we probably ought to be using the opportunity for commutation a little more frequently as an incentive for people in prison for life to work harder at trying to better themselves. But
it would be hard for me to want to see a murderer commuted. Although I do have to say there would be situations where that would be. Nothing is cut in stone,
Right.
We're dealing with human beings who have lives and backgrounds and relationships with the person that they murdered. And as horrific as murder is.
Yeah, and in the context of this conversation, the fact that Iowa does have the penalty of life in prison without parole should be a deterrent to anybody arguing that the death penalty is needed. So, and you have interesting shoes to fill on this account, because one of the all-time most outspoken leaders against the death penalty in the Iowa House was Jack Holvac.
That's right.
He and Minette Doderer served on the committee, the committee in the House when the bill came up.
I just oppose the death penalty on moral grounds.
Yeah.
The practical side of me opposes it on financial grounds,
right.
And the moral side of me opposes it on I can't play God and I can't kill people. I know that that's not something that people who have had somebody murdered feel. They have every right to feel the way they feel.
Yeah.
I just can't get there.
I do like the statement released by Iowans Against the Death Penalty. This just came out on Sunday. It was in today's paper. Quoting their comment, quote, the death of these two little girls is tragic. And the Iowans Against the Death Penalty will support the proper workings of Iowa's legal and justice system in identifying and prosecuting the person or persons responsible. So I think it's really good that the organization that again, in terms of advocacy groups, is leading the charge against reinstatement of the death penalty is is aware of how important it is in terms of the public's confidence in the judicial system.
That's right.
That opinion be expressed. So.
And part of that is taking care of the victims and survivors and making sure that they're part of that system and that they have all the information that they have a right to have. As I travel around the country, I find out that in many places, the death penalty is very popular because a life sentence is only 15 years.
Right.
Well, if a life sentence was only 15 years in Iowa, I would be working for something else.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marty. We'll be back with more conversation with State Representative-elect Marty Anderson. You're welcome to join us at 244-0077. And the lovely Maddie Arrington will take your call here at the station. And if you'd rather send your comment or question by email, it's fallonforum@gmail.com. I do want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show, and I want to encourage folks to support the businesses that support the alternative to right-wing radio. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood, and of course they've got a great line of groceries, and they've got a fantastic cafe. Less commonly known, they've also got a fantastic catering service, and this is the time of the year, often, when folks are putting together parties and events, and you should definitely consider giving Gateway a shout for catering your event, big or small. That's Gateway Market at 20th and Woodland. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks, on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of WebcastOneLive.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
Hi, folks. It's Ed Fallon here. Proof Restaurant at 13th and Locust. You've probably been there for their award-winning, nationally recognized lunch specials. And here's where the chefs really get creative. Let me tell you, they're like artists, okay? I've been there, and it is one of the best meals I have had in Des Moines. I've heard that from other people. You got to check it out. Proof for supper. Do not assume you can get in. Make reservations. Contact Proof Restaurant online at proofrestaurant.com or 244-0655. That's 244-0655.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano, and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Once I had a secret love.
Do you recognize that voice?
In this heart of mine. Just a minute. All too soon, my secret love.
No.
Became impatient.
It's not Frank Sinatra or Bob Hope. It's Max Wellman.
Oh.
Max has done a fantastic job of capturing the essence of the old tunes that so many people still love.
Yes, he has.
And we're honored. I mean, I'm really honored to have him back in Des Moines. And I encourage everybody to go check out one of Max's concerts this coming weekend at the Des Moines Social Club. And I went on Friday, and great experience. Just a wonderful way to spend an evening in the holiday season. Marty Anderson is our guest, and we are talking about her soon to be. You're going to be diving into the pit of fire at the State House. You'll be your first term at the Iowa House, and it'll be interesting.
I'm sure
I have
it
a
will
feeling
be.
you'll do well.
I'm sure it will be. Public policy is something that people don't like to see made. They don't like to do it.
Because it's an awful lot like sausage.
Yes, that's what we hear. But the fact is, somebody's got to do it. Yeah. And somebody who has the interest of Iowans and has the interest of the people should be making that sausage. I believe in people. I believe in Iowa, and I really just feel ready to do this.
Good.
I know I'm diving in, but it's not the first time I've dove into what people said was a very hard and difficult road.
We need more people who have background in working for good public policy.
That's right.
Who have demonstrated a concern for the public good. I mean, you're not coming from this as some corporate lobbyist or somebody who has been working for their own personal gain. You've made a modest living doing really important work, and I think that's a testament to your passion, and hopefully those that background, those experiences, that skill set will be appreciated.
Well, I hope so. One of the things I've always had to do was get people around a table who don't like to talk to each other, and so in setting up crime victim services around the state for the last 40 years. It was something people hadn't heard of. They didn't think they needed to do it. Why would we add another thing to their consciousness or to their workload? And so I had to get people together who didn't want to do it, people who were passionate about doing it, and people who couldn't care less. Right. So, I'm used to working in that kind of a situation, and I'm hoping that that'll serve me well and serve the people of Iowa well.
244-0077, 244-0077, the number to call. Let's go to line one. Who do we got, Maddie?
We have Frank from Des Moines, but I need to come in there and put him on.
Okay.
We have Frank from Des Moines.
Okay. Maybe while she's putting him on, I can mention that I have my first community meeting with my district on Thursday night at the Northwest Community Center from 6:30 to 8. And I'm hoping that all of the constituents, Democrat, Republican, no party, independent, Green Party, whatever, that people come out, because I ran as a Democrat. I am a strong Democrat, but I know that after you're elected, you represent all of the people, and I want to hear from them what their thoughts and concerns are.
All right. Let's go to the phone lines. Who we got? Frank?
Yeah.
Frank. Did you vote for Marty?
No, I wasn't in her district.
Okay.
You're excused.
You want to support all the people, huh? You want to hear from all the people.
I do.
What is going on in the background there, Frank? You got some funny noises.
Somebody's playing the piano. See if you can.
Anybody you know?
See if you can pass this bit of fire. Marty, I hear you're against the death penalty.
I am against the death penalty.
Okay, now how does that square? I'm guessing you probably support a woman's right to choose. How do you square those two?
How do I square those two?
For instance, if those two little girls come to find out were raped, you wouldn't support the death penalty for rapists, but yet you'll support the product of rape being aborted. So how do you square murder's murder, is it not? And if you're representing all the people, how are you going to represent particularly my point of view on this?
Well, Frank, this is where I stand. I do believe that a woman has to control her own body and has to make those decisions about...
What makes it her body?
No, Frank, let her finish.
What makes it her body? It is her body.
According to the Bible, when
No, Frank, we're not going to do the Bible today. Keep it a policy,
okay? Frank, I just want to tell you where I stand on this, okay?
Okay.
I believe that a woman has to control her own body, and sometimes it is a situation, hard as it might be for her to make a decision like this, where she cannot have a child that she has conceived. Now, I grew up Catholic. I understand the issues around that. I don't believe that I can tell another woman whether or not they can.
Well, what are you going to do for the rights of the unborn that should be protected in the womb? Don't they have rights?
No, actually, they have the rights that are given. Frank, just a minute, Frank. They have the rights that are given to them by the mother whose body they depend on. Now, let me switch for just a second and get back to the original question on the death penalty. It is not a situation in which a person's body is involved. It's a situation where my criminal justice system would be deciding whether or not to put someone to death.
Okay, listen.
That's a different situation.
If I punched a pregnant woman in the stomach and caused her to abort a fetus, being that you're in the Human Services Department, I'd probably get charged with a crime, but yet a woman can go voluntarily have that same fetus removed and it's not a crime. Tell me the difference in that.
Well, one of the big differences is that you punched her and you have absolutely no right to punch her. Well, you have no right to hit somebody.
It's still the same. You got the death of an unborn. What's the difference? I'm not talking about how it happened. I'm talking.
You know what,
about
Frank? People die. People die. The unborn, the elderly, the young. People die all the time. Let me tell you this.
Okay,
you can't cause it.
On death row to death. Okay. People die all the time, so let's put people on death row to death.
You're not going to talk me into that, Frank, so I don't know why we're going down that road.
Frank, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Any other callers, Maddie?
Okay.
No other callers. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Campaign finance reform, very important to me and to a lot of people. Is that something you're going to try to push for? I know we've got Chuck Eisenhart in the House, has been a great ally for some type of campaign finance reform.
Chuck and I will be allies in a lot of ways. I got appointed to his environmental protection committee also, and I'm really excited about that. But back to finance reform, it costs too much money. As a social worker,
you mean elections cost too much money?
Elections.
Yeah.
As a social worker, I sit and I watch all this money go into these campaigns, and I think, gosh, I could have child guidance centers in every community. I could provide mental health care for everybody with that money. I could provide health care for everybody with the money that goes into campaigns. It's wrong.
How much did you raise in your own campaign? Primary and general.
I raised $74,000.
Wow.
Yeah, my father was furious with me. He said that is just outrageous.
Well, good for him, but I don't blame you. I mean, it's become. I mean, some elections now for the Iowa House for a job that pays $30,000. I mean, you have candidates raising over $500,000.
I had to raise twice or three times the salary of the job to get the job.
That's crazy.
Now, I do have to say that I did help some other candidates with that through the Iowa Truman Fund. Because I know that it takes a team to get anything done at the Capitol. Well, I didn't want to be up there all by myself.
Well, there were other candidates who had a tougher race than you did.
There were many other candidates. That's right.
Well, we got plenty more we could talk about, but we are out of time. Marty, thanks so much.
Oh, no. That went fast.
That's a great response. Oh, no, we're out of time. No. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Good luck. We'll have to have you back on during session and get impressions on how it's going, but also to talk specific issues. I mean, a lot of my audience is interested in the nuclear power discussion, if that comes up again. Certainly, we're very interested in environmental issues. We've talked a lot about climate change on this show. We've also talked a lot about the just debate right now over voluntary compliance on water quality and air quality issues versus some kind of regulatory framework. So you'll probably be front and center in some of those debates, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
I'd be glad to come back.
All right. Marty Anderson, folks, and you can catch her live and in person at a public forum this coming Thursday at 7 p.m.?
At 6:30, from 6:30 to 8 at Northwest Community Center.
And that's the community center on Franklin, around 52nd and Franklin.
It's 5110. It's right next to the library.
Yeah, great. Okay, Marty, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to thank Fighting Burrito for sponsoring this segment of our program. And we're going to have lunch there soon, aren't we?
Let's go eat that.
Yeah. Fighting Burrito is run by a guy named Matthew Goodman. He's a city councilman in Ames. And a very innovative business operator as well. Fighting Burrito, the idea is you can come and make your own burrito. Whatever you want, you get. And it's very affordable, very, very tasty. And I encourage folks to check it out. It's a new business at 13th and Locust in the Nationwide building. Check them out, folks. That's Fighting Burrito. You're here in Des Moines. And again, they did well in Ames for years, so we're going to see how well Matthew does here in Des Moines. We'll be back tomorrow, folks. What do we got tomorrow? Probably talk a little bit about the Kyoto Treaty, because that's gone through a revision. And Matt McIver with the Des Moines Social Club will be my guest as well. The Social Club, of course, is one of the Des Moines' most important cultural and creative venues. They've done a lot to help bring the cultural revival to Des Moines. We've got some other stuff to cover as well, but stay tuned at 1:30 for Bradshaw. Thank you.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.